It's an expression, a reflection of the world as we see it, or sometimes as we don't. Few artists have transformed the way we perceive art like Pablo Picasso, a man whose name has become synonymous with modern art. From his blue period to the birth of Cubism, Picasso challenged every notion of what art should be, breaking conventions and opening doors to new possibilities. But who was Pablo Picasso? The man who redefined art. What drove him to dismantle traditional forms and reassemble them in cubist shapes? Join us on a journey through the life, genius, and legacy of one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. This is the story of Pablo Picasso, the Cubist pioneer who forever changed the way we view the world. Pablo Diego José Francisco de Paula, Juan Nepomuceno, Crispín Crispiniano, María Remedios de la Santísima Trinidad Ruiz Picasso. Yes, that was his full name. He was born on October 25, 1881, in Malaga, Spain. Picasso's childhood was anything but ordinary. From a young age, it was clear that Pablo wasn't like other children. His father, José Ruiz Blasco, was an art professor and a painter specializing in realism. He immediately recognized Pablo's artistic talent, claiming that his son could draw before he could speak. In fact, by the time Picasso was 7 years old, his father had already begun formally teaching him how to draw. But young Pablo quickly surpassed his father. By age 9, he had painted his first oil painting, Le Picador, which depicted a man on horseback in a bullfighting ring. The level of detail and skill in the painting was astonishing for a boy of his age. But even though Pablo's talent was unquestionable, his childhood wasn't without struggles. When he was 10, his family moved to La Coruña, where his younger sister Concha fell seriously ill. Her death at the age of 7 profoundly affected Pablo, causing him to withdraw and sink into his art even more. José Ruiz Blasco was not only Pablo's father but also his first art teacher. In fact, legend has it that when Picasso was 13, José gave up painting, stating that his son had surpassed him. From that moment on, José would only serve as his son's guide, helping him develop his technique and understanding of classical art. At age 14, Picasso's family moved once again, this time to Barcelona, a city that would become crucial to his development as an artist. It was there that Picasso attended the La Llotja School of Fine Arts, a prestigious institution where he quickly impressed his teachers. His style was unmistakable, and his proficiency was far beyond his years. Picasso's youthful work adhered to realism, but something was brewing inside him. He wanted to break free from the conventions of the old masters. He was drawn to experimentation, and that experimentation would take him to the brink of genius. By the time Pablo Picasso was 19, his life took a dark turn. After moving to Paris in 1901, Picasso was living in near poverty, struggling to sell his art. During this period, his friend Carlos Casagemas took his own life after a failed romantic relationship. The shock of Carlos's death deeply affected Picasso, casting a shadow over his spirit. This marked the beginning of what art historians call the Blue Period, a time when Picasso's paintings were dominated by blue hues, representing his melancholy and grief. During this phase, his subjects were often the impoverished, the lonely, and the dispossessed, reflecting his own inner struggle. One of the most famous works from this period is The Old Guitarist. The painting depicts a blind, emaciated man, hunched over, strumming his guitar. His gaunt figure and tattered clothing capture the sorrow and despair of the human condition. The blue color palette conveys a sense of coldness, both emotionally and physically, as if the world around him has drained of all warmth. Though Picasso was still quite young, this period reflected an emotional maturity far beyond his years. He was grappling with the harsh realities of life, portraying human suffering with a level of depth that connected with the viewer's soul. During the Blue Period, Picasso lived in Montmartre, Paris, an area known for its vibrant bohemian atmosphere. He rented a small studio that lacked heating and was frequently cold. It was said that Picasso was often hungry, sometimes trading paintings for meals. His financial struggles during this time mirrored the desolation in his art. But like many of Picasso's phases, the Blue Period would not last forever. As the emotional weight of his grief began to lift, his art would once again transform. Little did the world know, this was just the beginning. Around 1904, Picasso's life took on a brighter tone. After meeting Fernand Olivier, a model and artist who became his lover, Picasso's paintings started to shift. This new phase, known as the Rose period, marked a turning point in both Picasso's art and life. The works from this period are characterized by warmer colors, pinks, oranges, and reds, and reflect themes of love, romance, and circus life. One of his most famous paintings from this era, Family of Saltimbanques, shows a group of circus performers, acrobats, jugglers, and musicians, standing in a barren landscape. Their solitary figures seem distant, yet there's a sense of familial connection in the way they interact with one another. Although the Rose period had a lighter mood compared to the Blue period, Picasso's subjects were still somewhat melancholic. The circus performers, often referred to as saltimbanques, symbolized the artists of the time, traveling from town to town, always on the fringe of society, and always putting on a performance. During this period, Picasso's love for classical art began to surface again. While he still painted in his distinctive style, he also became more interested in form, particularly the human body, and how it could be simplified. This fascination would later evolve into something that would change the art world forever. Fernand Olivier played a key role in Picasso's artistic development during the Rose period. As his lover and muse, Fernande inspired many of his paintings. Her influence brought new life and energy to his work. Although their relationship was filled with turbulence, it ignited Picasso's exploration of warmth, color, and affection. But as always with Picasso, the Rose period was just a stepping stone. His mind was constantly moving forward, searching for something new, something unseen, something that would soon shake the very foundations of art itself. 1907 was a year that would go down in art history. This was the year that Pablo Picasso, alongside his friend and fellow artist Georges Braque, revolutionized art with a style that had never been seen before: Cubism. Cubism was an entirely new way of looking at the world. Instead of portraying subjects from a single viewpoint, Picasso and Braque would disassemble objects and rearrange them into geometric shapes, showing them from multiple angles all at once. It was as if they were attempting to show the essence of their subjects, revealing not just what they looked like, but what they felt like. One of the most significant works of this new movement was Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. At first glance, the painting looks like a jumble of distorted faces and sharp lines, but upon closer examination, you can see the influence of African art and traditional Iberian sculptures. The women's faces are reduced to masks, and their bodies appear fragmented, as if Picasso was trying to capture the multiple facets of their being. Cubism wasn't just about breaking objects apart, it was about challenging perception. It forced people to rethink how they saw the world and question the very nature of reality. Picasso's relationship with Georges Braque was crucial in the development of Cubism. The two worked side by side, often in isolation, pushing each other to new heights. They would show each other their latest works, challenge each other's techniques, and in doing so, shatter the boundaries of traditional art. Though Cubism wasn't immediately accepted by the mainstream art world, it slowly began to gain recognition. And while many critics were left baffled by Picasso's work, others saw it for what it was: a complete and utter breakthrough in how we understand art. Picasso had taken the world of art and turned it upside down. With the creation of Cubism, Picasso became not just an artist, but a cultural force. The world of art would never be the same. His influence rippled through the art world, inspiring countless movements and genres that would follow. Picasso was relentless in his pursuit of innovation. Even after the revolutionary impact of Cubism, he didn't stop. Instead, he continued to experiment with different styles, from neoclassicism to surrealism. He embraced every influence, from ancient Greek art to African sculptures to modern industrial design. One of the defining traits of Picasso was his fearlessness. He never shied away from the uncomfortable or the unknown. For Picasso, art was not about perfection. It was about exploration, about discovery, about constantly pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Picasso was known to say, Every act of creation is first an act of destruction. He believed that in order to create something new, you had to be willing to destroy what came before. This philosophy permeated every aspect of his work. Whether it was Cubism, Surrealism, or classical art, Picasso always sought to dismantle the traditional forms in order to rebuild them in his own vision. As Picasso continued to experiment and create, he became a living legend. Galleries around the world scrambled to exhibit his works, and his name became synonymous with modern art itself. Picasso was not just an artist of the canvas, he was an artist of the world, and nowhere was this more evident than in his political art. As the Spanish Civil War raged in the 1930s, Picasso watched from afar with horror. In 1937, the town of Guernica in northern Spain was bombed by Nazi planes in support of Franco's nationalist forces. The destruction was devastating. Picasso was infuriated by the senseless violence and felt compelled to respond. His response was one of the most iconic and powerful works of art in history, Guernica. Guernica is a massive monochromatic painting that depicts the horrors of war. The chaotic composition features distorted figures, crying women, and slain animals, all tangled in a scene of chaos and devastation. The mural-sized painting is a raw depiction of the trauma inflicted by war, a scream on canvas against the inhumanity of conflict. Guernica became a symbol of resistance, a cultural statement against tyranny. It solidified Picasso's role not only as an artist but as a political figure, someone who used his art to fight for justice and humanity. Throughout his life, Picasso remained a fierce opponent of Francisco Franco and his dictatorship in Spain. Despite receiving multiple invitations to return to his homeland, Picasso refused to do so until Spain was liberated from Franco's rule. His opposition to fascism was not just in his art, but in his life. Guernica was exhibited worldwide, bringing attention to the horrors of war and helping to cement Picasso's place not just as an artist, but as a voice for peace. The painting's raw emotion and unflinching honesty have made it one of the most revered pieces of art in modern history. As Picasso entered the final decades of his life, he remained as prolific as ever. He continued to create, often working on multiple paintings, sculptures, and prints at the same time. His passion for art never faded. If anything, it grew stronger as he aged. His later works are filled with bold colors, simplified shapes, and a sense of freedom that comes with a lifetime of experience. He once said, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child." Picasso's later works embraced the spontaneity and playfulness of a child's vision, showing a sense of joy and creative liberation. Picasso's later works embraced the spontaneity and playfulness of a child's vision, showing a sense of joy and creative liberation. Though Picasso is best known for his paintings, he was also a prolific sculptor. In his later years, he became fascinated with sculpture, often using unconventional materials like metal, wood, and junk to create bold, abstract forms. These sculptures pushed the boundaries of traditional art, much like his paintings had done. But as Picasso grew older, he also became more reflective. He began to look back on his life and legacy, acknowledging the many phases he had passed through and the impact he had made on the art world. He knew that he had changed art forever, but he was still driven by a desire to explore. He never stopped experimenting and innovating until the very end. On April 8, 1973, at the age of 91, Pablo Picasso passed away in Mougins, France. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy had only just begun. Picasso had created over 50,000 works in his lifetime: paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures, and ceramics. His relentless creativity, his fearlessness, and his unwavering desire to push the boundaries of art have ensured that his work will live on forever. Today, Pablo Picasso is celebrated as one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, if not all of art history. His work has shaped the way we think about art, and his impact can still be seen in modern artists around the world. Even after his death, Picasso's work continues to break records at auctions. His paintings regularly sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, making him one of the most valuable artists in history. His influence on the art market is unparalleled, and his name is eternally associated with greatness. Picasso's life was one of endless innovation, boundless creativity, and a deep passion for expression. He transformed the art world not once, but multiple times, and his work continues to inspire generations of artists today. As we look back on Picasso's life, we are reminded that art is not about following the rules. It's about breaking them. It's about seeing the world in a new way and sharing that vision with others. Picasso's legacy is a testament to the power of art to change, not just how we see the world, but how we experience it. The legacy of Pablo Picasso is more than just paintings and sculptures. It's a revolution in the way we understand art itself. He dared to challenge the norms of his time, to dismantle reality, and to reassemble it in a way that forced the world to look at itself differently. From the Cubist movement to the Surrealist experiments, from his depictions of love to the horrors of war, Picasso's work covers the entire spectrum of human emotion and experience. He taught us that art is about exploring, about going beyond what we know to discover what lies beneath. Picasso's legacy is not just a body of work, it's a challenge to artists, to thinkers, to dreamers, to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the life and legacy of Pablo Picasso. Be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest artists and their enduring impact on culture.